broth type of thing going. Like the broth of all these things, like ramen and pho, is like a long process. Then yeah, I feel for you. You know, people say, like, oh, you could just make this at home. Like for instance, some of my family never goes out to Italian food because we just figure we can make it at home. But that's never true, is it? Because at home, you have, like, inhibitions. And you don't stick a stick of butter into your pasta. And you don't throw in 10 garlic cloves. You throw in 2. You know what I mean? Food made by other people is always 100% better. Unless they're terrible cooks. That's not about food. We are in game 1, and we do have a 12 pool here. In the top left, going for that 12 pool, he is Reynor. In the bottom right of Submarine, he is Ting's Neeb. Obviously scouting that it's an early pool, and not being too surprised by it nor fazed by it. It is Submarine. Reynor literally just did this against Gung Fu on Jagannatha. And, you gotta imagine some Zergs are trying to do this to gain an early advantage, specifically to help their mid game so that they don't have to play late game. See where I'm going with that? No one likes the late game right now. I hesitate to say that even the Protoss like it. They might like winning, but I don't think it's a very fun playstyle to play over and over and over and over again. But I think more so, it is Submarine, as I said, and there have been some points where the Zerg players have been experimenting with 12 pools as openers. That's maybe more where Reynor's coming from. I feel like if I asked him, he would say, I just don't want to play against late game, though. Versus Gung Fu, he did a Ling Queen follow-up, and then he did a Roach Ravager Queen follow-up. Finally worked. Is that what he's gonna do here? Neeb had to respond to the second gateway, chrono your depth, delay your nexus. It's been figured out how to deal with the early pool. The tricky thing can be if they're following up with something different. That's why you see Neeb trying very cautiously to do a little bit of scouting. His first adept went out and then shaded back home, so it could scout. And then these adepts shaded out. Only one was canceled to stay at home and plug the hole. The other one does the scout. You do need to see if they have like 40 lings ready to go because speed's about to finish. You need to see if they're doing a follow-up ling all in. Good grab on the creep tumor. Adept probably didn't expect it, but is thankful for it. Neeb is going for a Stargate opener, which I think this Overlord just saw. Yep. Knows its fate. Just gonna let itself die. One adept is going to fall. Other adept actually does go into the main base for 4, maybe 5 drones. I'd say that's not too bad. Almost even got the 6th, but 5 for 2 adepts. Not too bad. The adepts aren't strictly necessary to get that 3rd nexus. The Void Ray will help against the scouting overlords and then any roaches that worse players might have coming across the map. And the Oracle coming out here will do that nice follow-up scout as well as help, if necessary, against Lings trying to kill this 3rd nexus. If Reynor went for 26 Lings, he could get a canceled nexus, but then he'd also have 26 Lings that aren't drones. That's more of a focus for Reynor. 8 more drones, 9 more drones on the way as he wards off the Oracle with just good Queen presence. Neeb is going for that 2nd Stargate. Surprise, surprise. Oh. Reynor just adding on his lair, hitting his Roach Warren. Anticipating, no doubt, the double Stargate. If you did worry about them actually going into an Adept follow-up, you might get the Roach Warren a little bit quicker. You'd stop producing drones around 41, and you'd be being attacked right now. As he is not. The idea is to get to a nice, comfy, economic position, and then perhaps go into, I assume, Hydras. I'm not sure Reynor's really setting up for a queen push. Hold on. 5 queens? No, that's not enough. Oh, those creep spreads starting to get a lot out of control. It's a little scary. I mean, seems like everyone's getting what they want from this game for the most part. Neeb's allowed to go into third base. Twilight Council and Forge is on the way. Continue to produce double Void Ray. And Reynor is going to start up +1 and Roach speed. Ooh, and now he's turned up 3 queens. Okay, alright. Queens just so good against everything, aren't they? Well, that's not gonna work out. Spore Crawler reposition Queens in place. Void Rays didn't have a shot there. Yeah, Queens are so good. They can transfuse each other. They can transfuse the Roaches. They don't take extra damage from anything. Not that the Hydras do either, but the Hydra's a little more vulnerable. Just lighter on that health pool. And this obviously attacks a lot faster, so Reynor is going to be setting up for a Roach Queen push just later than I thought it was going to be. But still, it is going to be Roach Queen, spreading that creep through the middle, barely able to get that creep tumor down before the creep actually recedes. Queens don't have a lot of transfuse here, so I think the Void Rays actually do win. Although maybe not as much as Neeb was hoping it would. Another Queen's coming forward. It's actually a really tough call. Neeb is sticking to it. He's taking out a lot of the Queens, and that's the thing though, is that like once the Queens are gone, his Void Rays will handle the Roaches and the Ravagers eventually. So that was a really dangerous thing to do. If there were actually like 6 Queens, for instance, you know, wiggling their butts forward, about to help out, then he might have made a huge mistake. But he did catch the Queens at just the right time, before there were enough Queens, before they had a lot of transfuse, to start taking advantages there. Now it's still a little bit awkward as his Void Rays are cut off from the defense, but he's got a recall if he absolutely needs it. The Queens are still, I guess, not forwardly placed, so they're gonna take a while to actually arrive, even with some creep spread to help them out. Finally, some more Void Rays do appear, helping to take down what is actually a large count of Ravagers, so they're not gonna fall as fast as you would hope. Zematic alignment not working on anything that's not armored. Well, it works on, it doesn't do any extra damage against it. Charge is almost done. A Stalker count has actually grown, surprisingly. And Neeb has all of his gateways. Queens are finally on the front lines, and they're going to be able to grab maybe even one of the Void Rays. Oh, Corrosive Bile grabs it. Neeb actually trying to transfer mostly into the ground army, realizing the Void Rays have done what they can. And now if he could just get a decent engagement with the ground army, a couple charge lots running in, not enough to actually weather the Ravager storm. Void Rays also starting to get shot up by those Queens. More Zealots coming in, more shield batteries finishing up. Even the Oracle trying to get on the action, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough. Though Void Rays very, very low. The Zealot count non-existent, and Reynor is going to take game 1. And I feel like it's just a generally tough call for Protosses to make sometimes about whether the Void Rays should be taking the engagement there or not. I don't know. Because hopefully, I guess they're also buying time. The Roaches and Ravagers are waiting for their Queens, not breaking down shield batteries, not tangling with the army that's building up, hopefully, what is a lot of Zealots, but trying to think if not engaging those Queens would have been better, and I can't say that it would have been. Maybe it would have. I don't know. You know, the thing about the Queens towards the end of the game, the fight, whatever, is that once they're off creep, they're slow. They're not all firing at once because they're apart from each other. Their AI's derping out behind the Roach Ravager. So your micro can actually get a bit better. Void Ray is very microable. Queens off creep, definitely not. You might say, ZombieGrub, shouldn't you know the answer? And I'll say, you know what? The only time I have to know it is when it's a premiere broadcast and I'm asked it. Okay? This is my practice. And if I don't figure it out here, and I do get asked next week, point blank. So ZombieGrub, what do you think Neeb should have done better there? I'll just go with some type of casterism. I'll just say, well, you know, I really do think the Void Rays could have been microed better. StarCraft is a game of seconds. And, maybe if he had a couple more seconds, he could have done better. That'd be my answer. And he goes, ZombieGrub's not a very good answer. And I'd be like, yeah, but hopefully no one's gonna ask me. Actually, the honest truth is that we would just laugh, usually. Anytime we're usually asked those types of questions, we honestly just laugh. And we're like, I don't know. If I knew, I'd be winning the game right now. If I knew, I wouldn't be here commentating. I'd be down there winning. That's the real answer. It's kind of the conundrum of PvZ right now. Zergs are like, well, the Protoss late game's pretty overpowered, and the Protoss are like, well, your Queen all-in's pretty overpowered, and then they just kind of yell at each other. And the Terrans are currently that guy smoking weed behind the two girls fighting. Hoping we're not paid attention to. Yet still finding something to whine about, I'm sure. The bottom right of Romanticide up 1 is Reynor. And top left is the red Protoss. It is Neeb. Yeah, it's not a very appealing matchup right now. Mambo has started a rumor, it seems like, where he swears that they've figured out a way to deal with Protoss. Maybe he means these Queen all-ins that are happening. They've been happening, but they can be perfected, right? Or maybe there's something else that the Zerg Cabal is hiding. But even if they figured out a way to do it, unless that way is something really complex and interesting, matchup right now is not exactly at a super fun point. But again, I can be brutally honest on these broadcasts. Where next week, when we have Neeb versus Dark, I'm going to paint a smile on my face and say, yeah, this PvZ could be really fun, you guys. You know what, actually, though? Neeb versus Dark would actually be interesting. Because Dark, at least, is trying to experiment with, like, Microbial Shroud and shit. Apparently, Rogue also did it recently. But otherwise, let's be real. Let's be real. PvZ. Kind of in a weird state right now. Isn't Reynor just kind of the heavy favorite? I mean, kind of. Neeb doesn't appear often enough. And honestly, even if he is appearing, even if he's in a tournament, we've seen him for the past couple of days, past couple of weeks, whatever. Honestly, sometimes he does come up, look good. We start hyping him up to be the man he was in 2017. And then he does fall a little short, so I do believe that if you're looking at all the things combined, it should be Reynor favorite 100%. If you're going off of pure feeling, pure American passion, then Neeb obviously wins. Strike an opener again from Neeb. So the last map did have a couple of things going wrong for Neeb. First of all, he had to deal with the 12 pool, which he dealt with perfectly fine. And he even used his 2 adepts that he made from dealing with the 12 pool pretty well. 5 drones, they said, was pretty okay. But he had to deal with that, so that threw his build off. Wasn't something he practices too often outside of Submarine, I'm guessing. And then he also is on the shortest map. 12th will gonna hit a little extra bit because it's a short map, but also the Roach Queen attack's gonna hit a little bit harder because of the map. Creep spread gets there a lot faster. The queens get there a lot faster. And it's not really the same thing to say the Void Rays get there a little bit faster. It's not really the same deal. So now that we're on Romanticide, which is kind of the middle of the road maps as far as travel distance between the naturals, which, you know, on Romanticide it's kind of like a shared, like from here to here, the middle of their natural and third. Is kind of quick, but then you've got the curves, and it's kind of makes creep spread annoying. Maybe you don't want to hit just right up this ramp into the middle of all of their forces, potentially surrounded on two sides, so you kind of actually hit from here, which obviously takes a very long time to get through. Romanticide's middle of the road, natural to natural distance, but it is actually a very large map if you do anything else besides that. It's got a lot of room, it's got a lot of girth. StarCraft players love girth. Or a hive mind on a cabal. I don't know. A hive mind implies that you guys are somewhat at the whim of your natural instincts. A cabal means that you're actually just set out for like world domination and to be evil. I feel like you guys are just set out to be evil. A hive mind is also like, you know, very obvious and apparent, you know, that everyone's being affected by it. A cabal is like, are they meeting? Aren't they meeting? Are they real or aren't they real? Oh, a Spire coming down here. We have seen some Zerg players go for... I love the way it's positioned, by the way. Little SimCity. We have seen players go for a Nuda opener. Kind of bop a couple of probes, get the Protoss really off their footing, and then use that Spire obviously to go into Corruptors. And we have seen also a Corruptor kind of timing, almost like what they were doing versus Battlecruisers 2 years ago. This ain't gonna work out well. Oh, Neeb not starting this off right, taking lots of damage on two of those Void Rays. Very well positioned queens from Reynor. Kind of sounds a little bit like a beautiful fungal statement, like, wow, queens are in position, super cool. But, you know, to be fair, not everyone's doing it. And I think that's part of the reason, perhaps, that the queen thing is becoming stronger, is that Zerg players are getting better at anticipating where the Voiders are going to strike, and when they're going to strike, I guess, as well. So they used to strike a lot at the 4th and try and get a quick cancel. Then they moved on to, like, harassing naturals. This time around, Neeb actually had the main base, but I guess maybe creep spread alerted Reynor, which is very good creep spread. Just got it covered so that they don't slow down at any point. Move it to the middle of the map as well. There's the 15 mutas. All right, 15 is actually a solid number right there. God damn. That is going to cause quite a bit of damage, and I don't think Neeb ever got into sight. He didn't go for a scout with any hallucinations. His oracle can't actually really, it doesn't usually go through this path, and only now is he double hallucinating. Oh, the timing though. The timing as he runs forward and goes, oh shit, I'm dead. I mean, maybe he doesn't tap out right now because the Archons come, but like, I think he might be a little screwed here, you know? I don't know what I'm saying. No cannons, no shield batteries. The recalled Void Ray is actually trying to do something, but not very much. Neeb just desperately trying to hit his opponent before his opponent can gather enough roaches. But the queens are here, and what else do you need? Am I right, you guys? Am I right? Just kidding. The queens actually will falter against this type of army. The Lings have already gone down. The queens now starting to struggle against the Zealots and the Archons, using all the transfuses they can just to buy some time for the roaches and the hydras to pop out. The War Prism still being alive gives Neeb some hope here, but he is losing a lot of probes on his home turf. The roaches are here. They're a little bulked up. The Archon's doing plenty of damage. War Prism's still alive. The mutas are gonna have to come back, but they've actually lost a lot of their numbers, down to 6. They can't even necessarily go after that War Prism, and perhaps Neeb has actually managed to find the one specific timing of which he could actually kill Reynor before Reynor swapped over into roaches. Love the Sim City again from the Roaches. Force Field is looking brutal, but Corrosive Biles will be available in just a hot second. Mutas have come back to help out as much as they possibly can. Neeb now has to make the decision. Does he continue to fight, or does he maybe recall and try to play this game out? He does have 4 Nexus, but he lost a decent amount of probes. He's still at 48. It's not bad. But then there's also a chance that he just wins right here, and that's the choice he's going with. The Stalkers have come from across the field to help out on the front lines. The Roachborn getting all wiggly jiggly because it is bleeding. The Warp Prism's still a thing. The damn thing is still alive. The Corrosive Biles can't hit it. The Corrosive Biles not even hitting the force fields. They hit basically nothing, but the drones come in to try and save the day as well. The Archon number 1 finally falls. Archon number 2 barely alive. The Roaches and Ravagers finally able to escape from that high ground, and Neeb might finally be cleaned up. But no, the Zealot Warpins, it's gonna be good enough. Reynor's got nothing else. He's got 7 Roaches on the way, but Neeb still has reinforcements. The Warp Prism finally gets hit, but it's not 3 Corrosive Biles, so it still lives. The Stalkers, meanwhile, were taking down that 3rd base. They now come forward to join forces, and Reynor is not gonna be winning this game. He got so damn close to hitting that swap into Roaches, perfectly timed, but it wasn't good enough. Neeb, keeping the Warp Prism alive, is going to win game 2. GG. I really thought that Neeb was a goner. He's getting all types of dramatic. Game 3 taking a while to pop up. Maybe Reynor is shocked that he lost that game. What the hell? The drones tried to be the MVP of that game. They tried so hard. Will help against the Archon. No, you won't. Corrosive Bile is definitely designed to break force fields. Did anyone say that it wasn't? Did anyone say differently? It's tied up now. As I mispress all the buttons, because I got a visit from Apollo. Here we go. Oxide for game 3 in the top right. It is Clash's Reynor. In the bottom left, there's the red Protoss. It's Ting's Neeb. Ah, Ting. I was there for the birth of Ting esports. No, really, literally. Wiggly jiggly. Thank you, Fruit Seller, for the 100 bits. We were in Toronto, setting up a test run of a gamer, of an e-gamer house, and this random company called out to us and was like, "We want to talk to you guys about esports." We were like, "Yeah, all right." So it was me, Rifkin, and Scarlet. And they were like, "Who do we pick up?" And at the time, Neeb was on the rise. Neeb's stocks were strong. Stonks. We were like, this is an easy choice. This is like the most obvious choice of any choice has ever been made as far as talent acquisition has gone, or player acquisition, whatever. And Luckily, Jesse's a very cool guy. He was very attached, very passionate. And they went from that, sponsoring one guy and kind of experimenting, to actually having a whole, like, division of the company that he runs now. So that's really cool. And it's good to see that they're still strong into their roots, still sponsoring their first player. If only we could do a better job of actually showcasing the sponsors in StarCraft. That's the only good thing about the new overlay. The only thing, which I just now realized I'm gonna have to fucking cast off of the PvZ, and now I'm really upset, is that it shows the team logos. That's the only reason they continue to use it. Because otherwise, it's fucking shit, and I hate it. And I love everyone who was at StarCraft before they all left to form Frost Giant and shit, but like, fucking A, guys. How about you have you run this past us first? Alright. I'm good. I'm good. Natural now finally being taken. Reynor was blocked because of Neeb's cheeky probe. And Neeb is once again going for a Stargate. You know what? I was going to make a betting joke. Let's actually form up a bet here since we're tied up again. Seems like it's still even enough. Fair enough to run a bet. Start a prediction. Who wins the best of 5? Reynor. Two Adepts looking to do some damage in the main. Not gonna actually try and go through with it. More so on the scout then. Were there 20 lings hold up in the main base or not? There were not. Here comes the Oracle, and it is going to be a Void Ray Oracle. Nope, actually that's what he opened with the last 2 games. Damn. I thought it'd be something different and interesting. That's my bad. I really hate when this type of thing happens, because it does happen. It's the honest truth. Like, sometimes in StarCraft, there's just a meta, and worst of all, a specific build that is used over and over and over and over again. And I feel bad about getting kind of cheeky about it, like, oh, what a surprise! He's doing the thing that wins him games, because they want to win games, and all is fair in love and war. But like, oh my god, you guys. Good job, Void Ray. That's creep tumor. Way to go, man. No, that's not being controlled though. Oh, the Oracle's being controlled. That almost dies. The Void Ray takes a hell of a lot of damage, and Neeb was not the shining micro moments that he's going to be showcasing on his stream highlights. It's not that great. Have a drink? Ah, I might just have to, man. She's so angry. It's just as passionate about anything as TG is about overlays. Yeah. It's, you know, it's the principle of the thing, all right? It's just that they were like, let's change something about the esport and consult no one about it. And it's like, God, I love you guys so much, but like, this seems like an obvious... Obviously, it's your fault, you know? Hindsight 2020, I can see where they thought that it was going to be all good, all gravy. It's the best thing ever, but they didn't do any testing. They didn't ask anyone. Or the people they asked were dumb. Maybe they asked like ESL, and ESL saw that it had team logos, and they were like, all right, we're good. And they didn't see anything else. But like, God. Actually, you know what's really good? I guess to make this a positive stream. Ooh, we got disruptors at least. Disruptors are fun. Is that the Shopify guys who made the battle breakdown tool? They did contact us about a week before they showed it. Well, TLO did. They, as if it's some mysterious suit and tie. TLO did, and he was like, hey, do you have anything to note? Like, should we change anything? What do you think? That's what you're supposed to do. Anyways. Void Ray is still looking to just do some amount of damage, because that's really what is found out to be more so of the power of the Void Rays. If you just play Void Rays because lol XD Void Rays, you're probably gonna have a bad time against good Zerg players. What really started to be very obnoxious for the Zerg players is that they started to not just go after 4th base cancels, they started going after extractors and queens being picked off one at a time. They felt like you had to be very defensive, and then by the time you were ready to go on the offense, you had already wasted too much time. So this, this whole thing of like Reynor perfectly defending and even taking gains on these exchanges, finding the Void Rays at all times, getting them injured is a really big deal. But I want to see some disruptors. I want to see some queen bodies flying. Unfortunately, queens don't really kill rocks that fast. I don't know what that's about. But also, mutas don't get shot at by disruptors. Neeb's got a problem, a form of anti-air. I don't know how much of a problem it is, though. Not only does he have 8 going on 10 Void Rays, which isn't what you would depend on to deal with mutas, but is fine for this if they were all in position. He's also got cannons to time around. This is no longer a complete blindsided move, right? Although this is... okay, the Disruptor is going to find a good number of roaches right there. Disruptor number 2 is going to weaken a lot of those queens, use up a lot of the transfuses. Doesn't one-shot them, though, unfortunately. Mutas have found a couple of weak points. The cannon and the shield battery can only do so much if they focus right on the probe. So 15 probes already going down. The Guardian Shield might look a little bit silly, but it's actually very effective against mutas. Always pop it. And the main base gets hammered once again. 20 probes go down in total. But do keep in mind that Reynor invested a decent amount of resources into the mutas to do that. And Neeb had already had a 3-base saturated situation and is already getting to a 4th base. So that looks really painful. That looks really like, lol, Zerg, but it's not actually that bad. Reynor is probably still a little bit more in the position of like, I'm scared of the late game. And wants to do something about it, but I don't think he's gonna be able to do anything about it. I don't think he will. Lings are caught by Stasis Trap. Roaches and just roaches will die very quickly to the Void Rays. No disruptors even needed. Reynor at least finds the 4th base with his mutas. We're about to have a fight, but chat just made me chuckle. That 4th base is actually a goner now, and that's pretty big. It's actually very realistic, I would say, that even a pro would forget to look for that base. But Reynor not only looks for it, he actually gets the kill before Neeb can respond. Ooh, he's gonna jump on top of this. Not usually advisable against a good number of disruptors. Reynor loses a good chunk of his roaches, but he is also making room for his hydras. 22 hydras are on the way. Hive is about 80% done. Phoenix is accidentally running into the queens, lose a couple of their lives, but the mutas have already been dealt with. So the Phoenixes are not that big of a deal. They're in fact actually eagerly going across the map, letting themselves even be killed. Get some scouting, get some harassment. Yeah, Asher, bro. Bills that aren't too Stargate, I love you and I miss you. Such a good video. Second Spire's on the way. Lurker Den, upgrades aplenty. Neeb, obviously, successful now. In his attempt to get to the late game, is transitioning into triple carrier production. Already working on that +2 flyer weapons, too. Let's put air attack when he does, I guess. I ever wonder why that has to be? Why does it have to be air, flyer, and ship? Well, I kind of get the ship thing, I guess. But it does have to be air and flyer. The, situation here seems good enough for Reynor, who was on 5 bases and is now going up to 6. Oh, there's actually a fight? I did not think they were going to engage each other this quickly. Disruptors do get a couple of juicy hits, but the Vipers have slapped down a lot of parasitic bombs. Stasis Trap apparently also went down at the same time at some point. Queen's actually coming forward to help out against very, very injured Skytoss. And Reynor still has a chance to make this work. The Queens are coming. They've taken the march across the field, and they are looking to win the game, but I don't think it's going to work. They have so many transfuses. They're trying their best to tackle carriers and void rays, and oh my. And did they actually do it? Did the fucking Queen Cavalry actually kill enough of Neeb Skytoss? Don't tell me that's a thing. Queens are supplemental. God damn it. You don't take an engagement and open up the path, the field, so that your queens can charge in, okay? They are not on horseback. They are on the opposite of a horseback. They're on 6 tentacle thingies, I don't know. They can't come in and win the day. They can't. It's not possible. But Corruptors can. And Reynor does take the losses there, uses his bank to replace all those roaches and hiders that he got killed with Corruptors. Combined with the Vipers he was able to save from the previous engagement as well, this could still be very nasty. One Disruptor comes forward but is yoinked and is killed. Carrier gets yoinked and killed. Not one shot though. Corruptor's not quite up to that count. As things are getting messy once again. Parasitic Bombs coming down. Good micro from Neeb to pull both Parasitic Bombs away. But the carrier count's looking awfully low. The Queen's still alive with some transfuses. The Void Rays come back in and prismatically aligned. Some of the cannons still helping out. Disruptor pops to help against the Hydras and the Queens. But the Corruptor's taking everything out. There's 4 carriers, but the Corruptors are trying their best to actually take them everyone out. A Mothership comes forward at the last possible second to try and save the day. There's only one Overseer, but it's still alive. It's not being focus fired. The Mothership's being focus fired anyways, and there's no shield battery in sight. The Mothership goes down, and only a single carrier is left over. Reynor actually pulls back, but it's not because he lost the fight. He 100% won that fight. He's just regrouping to make sure that he wins the war. He's gonna take this game. 188 supply to 110. The carrier can't even do anything. The interceptors get killed. Yeah, GG. Reynor with a 2-1. I'm used to a lot more poking and prodding between those types of armies. They're both like, I don't know, guys. I don't know. And instead, both times, they were just like, all right. And they just like, it was like a child, you know, with like 2 action toys. And they were like, blah, blah. Apparently that type of thing goes in favor of the Zerg. That time around. Queens are a tier 4 unit. Yeah. I think we all kind of noticed that there was a couple things missing. Storm was not there and feedbacks weren't there. The Disruptors cover what the Storms cover a lot of the time. They kill the Queens, they kill the Hydras. But they don't cover against Corruptors and they don't cover versus Vipers. So mayhaps Neeb should have added on to Templar Archives faster. Seems like he thought he was fine, which again, I did not think they were going to engage each other, and I guess Neeb also was like, he's always going to engage me. I have a good army, I have cannons. Probably thought he had more time to get to High Templars. But no, not the case. Some premium commentating here. Great job, ZG. Thanks, man. Carriers suck. It's been contested. I think it's a contested statement. Practicing for Katowice casting. I'm just having a good time, man. I'm just trying to have good vibes. No, I don't know. I mean, that is a lot of the point of casting these open cups for me is a lot of practice, a lot of learning the very up-to-date meta, and not feeling like I'm going into a premier tournament with little knowledge, right? What did the kids playing sound like? The bottom left of Jaganata up 2-1. He is Reynor. On the top right we have Neeb. When I was a kid, I was playing with 100% Dragon Ball Z action figures. 100%. Alright? Like, when I was really young, I had like a medieval, it was like a book when it was folded. But then you could fold it over to its like side, like 360, you know? And it became like a castle. Like kind of like a thin cardboard castle. I played with that for a little while. That was actually really cool. And I did have a Polly Pocket. Alright, shout out to people who had that. But since I was, from an early age, I was, you know, a tomboy and I had nothing but older brothers and older male cousins. I refused to like girly stuff, even if I actually did. So even though I had Barbies, I didn't play with them. Although the one time I did play with Barbies and I was like 3 or something like that, my older cousin David popped Ken's head off and said he was dead. And that probably traumatized me for a bit. But anyways. But I play with action figures from Dragon Ball Z 100%. Maybe a couple of Beast War action figures, maybe a couple Power Rangers, yeah, probably. But mostly Dragon Ball Z. I used to have like 20 to 30 action figures of Dragon Ball Z, and I think I actually gave most of them away. I saved my favorites. But I'm pretty sure I actually created very grand battle like scenes. I didn't just like go like pew, pew. I had a whole plot. I had a whole villain speech that I made my hero action figures pay attention to before the action began. I had basically a crush on Trunks from Dragon Ball Z when I was, because I was watching it while it was still like premiering on Toonami, right? So I didn't know anything about it outside of what was being shown. So I wasn't reading the manga and I wasn't like paying attention to anyone who was talking about the Japanese version. Because, you know, the internet was in its infancy. So when they were like, who's the mysterious teenager? I was like, oh my god, who is he though? And I begged and begged my mom to get me an action figure from the mysterious stranger, I think is what they labeled him for a little while before they actually released the Android saga. And she'll still tell the story to this day where she like went to like 24 Toys R Us's. She like talked to like everyone she knew from like her work and like her like knitting circle. And she like even had, she like went online, fucking like AOL dial-up shit onto like eBay in 1997 or something and like eventually found it. And it was absolutely 100%ly the best toy I've ever gotten. 100%ly. Alright? I was so ecstatic. But you know, I've looked at that toy recently and I was like, man, this actually isn't really, it's not even like really high quality. But I loved it, man. Any Dragon Ball figures or statues in your background? Yeah, 100%. There's, obviously, I don't really collect action figures, as in things that have, can pose and have movable parts, because they usually aren't very, very high quality. But I do collect, like, statues. But I have the Dragon Ball Z action figures that I saved. behind me. They're just not very noticeable. So I saved, like, the Trunks one. I actually thought Raditz was a really cool character. I think it was, like, my hipster choice as a kid. So I had, like, a Raditz one. I think I saved... Oh, I saved a Piccolo that I got from what was, like, a McDonald's or a Burger King Happy Meal. Here's, like, a gray Piccolo. It's gonna be worth millions one day, Zika. Trust me. And then a couple of small things. Like, I absolutely love... what are they called? Like, mystery boxes? You know, the, like, you 1 out of 6 chance to get the one that you want. I love them. It's like a gambling addiction for me. I have to stop buying them. So I have a couple of those as well. Alright, if you didn't expect it, because you were just talking about nothing about the game, here's what happened, guys. Jagannata, Neeb went for a Stargate opener, made a couple of Void Rays, did not go for a second Stargate, so a little bamboozle happening here. Has actually gone into a faster Twilight Council Forge transition. 3-base saturation, right into charge, Archon, and probably a push. Reynor having figured this out. Not seeing enough Void Rays, constantly checking at the compositions with his Lings. He's actually not going into any type of Queen push or German taxi or whatever you want to call it. He's actually going into Ling Baneling Hydra. Does mean we get a good old-fashioned PvZ, not this new thing. These StarCraft millennials and their Void Rays. And Neeb is moving out with the push that I was talking about. Lots of gateways have finished up. Reynor actually moving into this, trying to find it perhaps without the Warp Prism reinforcements. Turns a little bit awkward. Ling's caught with the Zealots. Hydra's caught without the Ling fodder. Not what you want to do as Reynor to start this off. You know, if anything, you want the Lings and the Hydras together fighting the Force, but really you want Banelings and the Hydras fighting the Force. This does seem to be a good enough Hydra army to push this back, even with the Warp Prism available. It's actually not the only Warp Prism in play. A second one actually went into the main base. I myself got bamboozled. Zealots and Archons in the main. Starting to do some damage, but mostly just forcing a split that I don't believe Reynor was really prepared for. No Corrosive Biles, obviously, as he skipped the Roach portion of this game. So Force Fields are a real bother. A spawning pool is about to fall. Neeb not taking advantage to actually move in over here quite yet. He's entirely focused on the micro, trying to make sure the sentries get the Force Fields, trying to make sure the Warp Prism doesn't get hit by this nasty little Spore Crawler. Unfortunately, it looks like it actually will be hit by the Spore Crawler. Did he click on it? How did it lose health? Oh, a Hydra popped. Oh, there you go. Hydra's finally popped enough to actually kill the Warp Prism. The sentries, though, 4 of them will continuously force field a ramp, but only if you're close to it. And only if you are perfectly timed on every single force field. And Neeb does not have the energy. He backs away as far as possible to buy the time. The army will die in the main, but now he goes back to his other army, which hits that 4th base. Reynor did try to preempt this and have his units in position. He doesn't have enough units. He took so much damage from that main base. Neeb actually going to be able to win this game and tie the series up. The great bamboozle of 2021. Okay, maybe I spoke a little too soon. That's actually a lot of Hydras. That's a lot of Hydras in a really good arc as well. So the Zealots, well, usually fantastic in this scenario, actually end up getting cut, taken out. Only the Void Rays are able to escape. The Warp Prism also flies over with the Oracle. But Reynor took so much damage. His main base was entirely ravaged. He lost 20 drones. He still manages to find 66 drones, though. No 4th base to mine from. He's got to replace that. But he's at 66 drones. He's going to try and add on a Lurker Den here to really utilize those Hydras. I mean, it's the next step of this matchup anyways, but it's also, like, the only thing he can make right now is Hydras. So. Could make Banelings if he had any leftover Lings. If he does not, that Queen... Sorry, the pool loss was pretty big. Also means he's not repairing his Queen count. The game's not quite over, but I do still feel like it is very Neeb favored. Neeb's on 4 bases, moving on to +2 weapons. So is Reynor, actually. It's not too bad. But also moving on into Storm. And that's not something that Reynor is actually prepared to deal with. He needs, you know, Ling Bailing coming in from multiple angles to deal with the High Templars. He needs Lurkers holding the line. Now he has Mass Hydra, which would work if this was Brood War. Well, it's gonna work now. Again, trying to micro to the best of his ability. Concave coming in. Couple of storms. Well, one storm hits. He's got 2 more. Another storm hits. Okay. Is he able to make this hold? Reynor's trying his best, man. He's going to clean this up. The Archons start going down. The High Templars will fall. They can be microed against. But the Void Rays also fall. The Archon that formed will fall. And Reynor does even up the supply again. But it still feels like an uphill battle right now. Neeb coming in with more charge outs on the right side. Going to go right for that hatchery. That is going to be killed. Reynor just letting that one go. As he realizes his army's not quite ready to take it on. He's got 6 Lurkers being built, however, and that will make it a lot easier to deal with multi-pronged harassment. They're also coming in perfectly timed to deal with what is now a mass charge-out army for Neeb. Neeb's army, 20, well, actually only 8 army supply above. Like, it looks impressive maybe numbers-wise, but now we're at a point, now that Lurkers are finally involved and Lings can be made again, that mass Zealot absolutely is not going to be the key to success. It might be the key to sex, but not to Sussex. Neeb going into a 5th base now is moving on to that mass Stargate play. It's gonna happen eventually in all PvZs, right? But I guess we had a fun little tug-of-war. Not really tug-of-war. We had engagements. And this might turn into a bit more of a tug-of-war. Reynor now with Lurkers can feel a bit more confident about defending, and then maybe he can use like his Lings and Hydras to try and make some magic happen in the middle of the map. If he is going to bring his Lurkers, he might leave his home defenseless, but the Lurker is obviously the strongest thing in his arsenal right now, and especially at the number that he has them. 12 ain't bad. He got 13. Carriers are on the way, and Lurkers do not do well against those. So you need a, couple of Hydras to support this, and he's making so many Lurkers, he doesn't actually have the Hydras anymore. Run by number 1 on the right side, gonna find that brand new 3rd base, and then a Warp Prism off to the left. It's going to find all the technology again in the main. Reynor has his own run by trying to happen, but cannons are actually in place to stop that. Reynor will hold against the forward assaults, but what about everything else? Main base gonna be cleaned up actually pretty quick. That wasn't too bad. But the 3rd base did fall. Neeb's still on. A lot of charge lots. It's an army that could disappear in the blink of an eye if it engages the Lurkers the wrong direction. Actually, this army is also able to disappear very quickly. The High Templars with Storm are very scary unless they're left alone, and for the most part, that was a very small army protecting them. If they were surrounded, it'd be a bigger deal. Got some Banelings trying to roll into the cannons. 4th base. Aren't going to find any success there. And Neeb has once again brutally injured his opponents. Reynor is currently the knight with about 1 arm remaining. He's got no legs, only 1 arm, and he's still putting up a fight. Hydra's, actually the upgrade just finished for the carriers, so that was well timed. Yeah, Hydra's not high enough count to take that on. Neeb does take game 5. And the battle continues. Did I turn into Fear Dragon for a moment? Because of the key to success? And sex? Oh, it was Pig. Pig the delivery was so great, I don't think it's something that would have been remembered if he had said, like, the key to success. Oh, I said sex, my bad. It was the delivery. He was just like, now, Maynard, the key to success is, like, it was just so, there's like a downward inflection. It was like a statement. And it's so good. Anyways. The key to sex is a lot of zealots. Yeah, I don't think that's the key. Game number 5, coming in on Pillars of Gold. Who wants to do the gold member voice for this? No one? In the bottom left, he's the blue Zerg, clashes Reynor. In the top right, as the red Protoss, we got Ting's Neeb. For a little while there, he was supposed to go by Neeblet. We were actually told at BlizzCon to call him Neeblet. And they were like, no, he was very specific, call him Neeblet. And then I think we all asked him about it after. And if you've never, like, hung out with Neeb, which I'm guessing most of you haven't, but like, you've seen him on an interview stage, okay? Interview stage Neeb is actually a little similar, a lot similar, to how he is in person. You know, a little shy, doesn't, you know, he kind of has to take a little while before he says what's really on his mind. You have to kind of convince him just to speak. And he was like, he just kind of like looked a little uncomfortable, and he was like, yeah, I just, you know, they asked me, and I said, you know, maybe that, you know, it's okay, either one, I don't really care. I'm pretty sure this is how the story goes. I could be misremembering, but it's happened enough times that I don't think I'm misremembering. Where, you know, it's the game of telephone. Where someone will be like, no, 100% they told me. Because one person said something in kind of like a ambiguous way. You know, it's like, oh, no, you know what? No, hold on. Story time needs to be over and done with. We got a forge on the way, guys. That's a forge and a gateway, actually, though. He's not gonna go for the cannon rush? Oh, he's gonna go for the cannon rush. All right, story time's on hold. Cannon rush is underway. The Overlord sees this, though, so I don't know if Neeb's actually gonna commit. It's kind of tricky because Neeb knows the spawning pool is not done anytime soon. And it's gonna take a long time for something to go over here. And even if it does, even if this was, you know, all the drones, that's a really nice position for the cannons to be in, so he is going to commit to it. Yeah, 2 cannons should be enough. And the probe's hanging around. I feel like for insurance. Assurance. But the hatchery's definitely gonna fall, and Reynor just kinda has to just accept this fate, man. Cannons being built back at home as Zealot's thrown it out as Neeb, I think, realized a little later than it was comfortable that, like, oh, okay, he's gonna send his lings over. But even though that cannon is, like, a little late, it looks a little concerning. The Zealot was gonna hold for a certain amount of time anyways. And in worst case scenario, if the Zealot was going to die, he could pull the probes and plug up the hole. Plug it up, plug it up. Ah, Queen, careful. Wow. She doesn't arrange that. Alright. Alright. So the game doesn't end. The cannon rush is successful, but it wasn't a very committed cannon rush. So, back to story time. The game of telephone. It's like if one person told another person, like, oh, I really love meatloaf. Or sorry, no, let's reverse. If the person said, I guess I like meatloaf, it's okay. And then the person they told it to happens to be an embellisher. Okay, like the type of person that just likes to embellish to make a better story. They're not doing it maliciously. They don't think it's a big deal. Does it really matter? It makes a funny story. So the next time they talk to someone, they're like, yeah, that person said they absolutely fucking love meatloaf. And that person, of course, accepts that at its face value and is like, oh, okay. They really love meatloaf, all right. Cool. When really, the person was like, I don't know. I don't know. It happens. I think one of the really good things to do in life, honestly, is we take a funny story and make a lesson from this. This is like your children's program where every episode has a lesson. The lesson is that you need to really figure out who in your life are, let's say, natural embellishers to be kind. Some of them are doing it maliciously, but let's go with the kind way for now. They're natural embellishers, and who are actually going to try and tell the straight story the entire time. The people who say, yes, 100% that, or the people who say, you know what, I'm not sure, maybe I misremembered. Gotta figure out those two people in your life. It's gonna be a lot easier. Anyways, it was a cool start to this game. It was different. But the game does continue on into a Stargate 3 base setup on Pillars of Gold against Reynor, who's gone for finally his third hatch back up and running. It's gonna take him a little while though. And going into roaches. Neeb did wonders with his build last game, but not necessarily because of the build. He did a lot of work there because the main base was a totally unexpected move. He had 2 warp prisms. No one does that. Does look like Neeb so far not committing to a second Stargate. Oh, he does have a Twilight. Yeah, there you go. So Twilight Council and the Forge was already made, so. Is going to be going into more so what we saw last game. Not a huge dedication to the Stargate. Reynor is going to go for Roach Swarm Host. He's going to go for kicking the nuts to end this series. He doesn't just want to beat Neeb in fisticuffs. He wants to kick him and step on his chest and then spit on his face. To me, that's what Swarm Hosts, okay, that's what they do, all right? Like, you don't just lose against Swarm Hosts and politely golf clap your opponent and say, well, really well played. Even if they did play very well. Neeb's gonna wanna be able to scout this, but Oracle, so far, I mean, not doing very much in terms of scouting. She got very, very injured, trying to harass the third. Could go back into the main, that's not even where the infestation pit is. Be tough for the Oracle to get in through the third into the natural to see all the technology, so this gonna be a surprise. Void Rays are going to scout this first, see the little waddlers themselves. Neeb, I mean, as long as you have some advanced notice, you can start building up the shield batteries, you can put your Archons in well-placed positions, you can prepare to micro. It's much worse if suddenly Locusts just land on top of a Nexus. Ooh, the stasis trap, not seen by Reynor. Very nicely done by Neeb to actually have the stasis trap. Reynor probably, I mean, if he was hinting maybe the natural, or if he thought his opponent already knew what he was going to do long before this, maybe would be looking for the stasis trap, but it wasn't that time, so an entire Locust Wave not being used very effectively, and then not off of cooldown to help with this engagement. Mostly Queens dying there as you see their entrails disappear. And Neeb has now snuck another Warp Prism into the main base, so eyes over here, and then you actually stab him in the gut off with the other hand. That's how it goes. That's how magic works. Warp Prism will be moved away. Zealot's actually going to be recalled, as it is very, very likely, I was going to say, that the Swarm Hosts eventually find value. They start killing things that are mineral-based and have to be replaced, or they literally kill a Nexus, which has to be replaced with minerals, and also is the way you gain minerals. So saving 600 minerals worth of zealots is really important. Now, that wasn't all good news for Reynor. It's great to get a Nexus kill, but his Swarm hosts were found out. Ah! Keep losing his Void Rays! Oh, man, he lost 2 instead of all 4, but yikes. So the Swarm host count went from, like, what, 8 to 3? Something like that? 9 to 3. Not nearly as effective of a number. Neeb's gonna have to double expand main and 4th base, but his 4th base is already about 80% done. That's a good sign for him. With the War Prism play, with taking the engagement here, the War Prism play in the main, and the Swarm host being caught, Neeb bought himself minutes worth of time where he was not being bombarded by either Locust or Roach Ravager. And that's really nice. Neeb's army gets better over time. Reynor's does not, even if it did actually have upgrades on the way. That is a lot of Archons and a nice concave powered by a shield battery with Immortals perfectly placed behind them. It's like if you prepared the attack in a unit simulator, this is how you want it to happen. Zealots again in the main base are going to be warded off by a bunch of roaches, but they got the main base. That's still rebuilding. Reynor's not exactly in a fantastic economy. His armor supply looks pretty decent at 40 above his opponent, but we know the trick is about Roach Ravager. It's actually not that impressive of an army. The only thing that Neeb is really missing right now is Storm. If he hits Storm, this is a no-brainer. He easy wins. Right now, it's a little bit trickier just because Reynor maybe could micro and work some magic with Corrosive Biles. Fortunately, the 4th base is going to go down. Not much we can do about that. But Neeb is still going to try and hit his opponent's economy as well. Doesn't work off on the 3rd or 4th, whatever you want to call it, but it is going to work once again in the main. Neeb actually just using purely his Archon Immortal Void Ray army to tackle Roach Ravager means that there's not a lot of fodder with it. There's those Zealots kind of burning their lives away for 100 minerals a pop, protecting the Immortals and the Archons. The Zealots are trading their lives to deal another economic blow to Reynor, so still a pretty good trade for their lives. Sorry, buddy. You can't put a price on a life. It's 100 minerals. Unfortunately, without that 4th base, though, things get a little more concerning about Neeb. Zealot Reinforcement this time around does actually connect with the Ravagers, maybe making some room for the Immortals and the Archons to connect as well. Actually, now connecting with the Queens, 1 Void Ray falls, the other one's still alive, could really help out. If all the Queens are gone, that is free damage on top of the Roach Ravager. But the Queens are not gone, and Reynor still has a line of creep going to the middle of the map that allows him to reinforce, so it's even a couple more Queens will be enough. The one Void Ray doesn't do a whole lot against Queens. Corrosive Biles raining down from above, breaking the force fields, trying to hit the Immortals, hits the Void Rays, in fact. There's not much that Neeb can do to stop the Roach Ravager army from kiting the army like this. I mean, if a couple of Zealots came in from behind, if a couple of force fields weren't broken immediately behind the Roach Ravager army, that army is so dead. Neeb's army is 100 times better than what Reynor has, even if Reynor does have +2 against +1. If it just was stuck, if the Roaches and Ravagers couldn't move. Reynor's actually starting to split up his Roaches, attacking to the 4th base, attacking to the 3rd. Neeb needs a 4th base within the next, like, 30 seconds. He needs that to finish. Reynor is finally moving on to 5 bases himself after recovering from the Zealot harassment. Corrosive Biles, taking out a lot of those sentries and an Archon as well. It looks like the split will just be barely good enough to hold, but that was so much gas that just went into that. I think most importantly, Neeb was able to deflect the attack on the right. That was most important. He really needs his 4th base. Like the 3rd, I mean, it can't go down either, of course, but the 3rd had a couple more production facilities around it, shield batteries around it, make it a bit less vulnerable. This base does not have that. It is very vulnerable, and the split no longer working out as Reynor makes his entire army just one big blob, rushes forward, Neeb actually trying to reinforce his poor army. And again, with a very good army, when 8 Immortals are there packing a punch against Roaches, it's a good army. But Reynor caught 50% of it with 100% of his own army, and already took a pretty good trade. Oh, Corrosive Biles again hitting the Immortals, weakening them, popping shields. Force fields desperately trying to collect Roaches. You're really not finding a lot of success. I mean, that's why Neeb is making sentries and not a bunch more Archons. Like, he could have easily made, like, 8 more Cotton Balls here, but they also would have died. At least the sentries have a chance to stop Reynor's army from kiting. Neeb might be feeling a little bit desperate. His zealots have again been thwarted. They haven't really found much success since the main base went down. But he can have a little bit of hope. He does have his 4th base up, running with a stasis trap, with a couple of shield batteries. I mean, it's not over yet. Definitely not. But that's not good. Oh, that's not good at all. 2 immortals, couple of sentries going down there, just on the awkward AI. Neeb thought he was good to clean up some creep spread, but he didn't even have an observer. So I'm not sure what that was about. Another immortal pops to help, but as one dies, I mean, if he hadn't lost all of his immortals, what number he'd be at like 11 immortals. Imagine that. A couple of force fields this time doing a good job cutting off Ravagers, allowing the Zealots to do their job there as they're pulled back. Needs to keep every mineral alive. Neeb is starting to run out of minerals in his main and natural. Reynor, now on 5 bases, is all starting to run out of minerals, but is moving on to a better composition, potentially. He's moving on to a hive, but still with a lot of Ravagers, mostly Ravagers in fact, trying to Corrosive Bile to buy time, allow his own retreat, trying to take down whatever units he can with them as he retreats, which is what Neeb has been trying to stop this entire time. So much damage done to him from those Corrosive Biles. That's a pretty good force field. It still runs into a couple. They got roaches actually entering into the natural and main base. Luckily, this Oracle is going to really help out. And a Disruptor is now on the way, but this Disruptor might be a little bit too late. Reynor could easily go into Vipers at this point. He has a hive. The Vipers immediately stop the Disruptor attack from actually happening. Cancels it. The Immortals trying their best to tackle what is just the entire army of Reynor. It's now all up to these Immortals, and maybe a Disruptor shot. But it feels like Neeb has run out of steam. He's lost too much over time. The Disruptor still doesn't have a shot. The second one is only still on the way. Finally, he uses a shot. Doesn't even hit anything. And there are those Vipers. Reynor knows how to end this game. If it's not right here, right now, it will be with those Vipers. But I think it's going to be here. The Disruptor goes down. The Immortals will fall as well. And Neeb is going to fall to the European champion. I mean, Neeb does a hell of a job in these open cups, cross-server. But Reynor a little too good. When he signs up for these cups, he usually wins them. Neeb really doesn't want to give up. He doesn't have a 5th base on the way, but he's lost his entire army. Reynor is quadrupling the army supply of Neeb and could easily go into any other type of composition. I don't think Neeb actually thinks he can win, but maybe he is hoping his opponent is actually only on 4 bases. He knows about the 5th. Doesn't know about the 6th. If Neeb brings this back from being at 100 supply to 200, well. Oh my god! That was a fantastic Disruptor hit. You know, maybe he just wanted some fireworks. He was like, if I can just get one good Disruptor hit, that'll make me feel good about this game. And that was a fantastic Disruptor shot. That's it! Reynor takes the 3-2. Keeps the European Open Cup